Today we're going to make chili. All you need is a chili spice pack, 1 pound of ground beef, an onion, a little bit of this beer. You can replace it with water if you want to. A big can of chili beans, and it will say chili beans with chili sauce. You want to make sure you have that. And then also a can of diced tomatoes. So we'll put all this together. First step is to dice an onion. You probably won't use all of this onion for your chili, but what I like to do is cut half of it, use half of it in the chili, and then you have another set of diced onions to put on later on. So now we will cut. Okay, again, this will probably be more onions than we need for the cook, but you can just kind of separate these later. And if you don't want to do any of the slicing and dicing of this stuff, I know you can just go pick up these all cut up already at the deli. So, on to number 2, browning the ground beef. In the interest of using as many pots as possible, what I'll do here is use this. This will be my final container for all of the chili. So first things first, I'm going to just start warming up this fire. Oops, got it on the wrong side. And just start getting this warmed up. And then once it gets a little warm, we can then grab the meat and throw it in. Now, you should have, if you don't, I know we have one at the lake, but use one of these guys to start breaking up and kind of cutting up all the meat. If you don't have one of these, just using a spatula or something tight or tough will work just as well. Just one other thing, keep in mind, I'm running about a medium heat here, so just kind of listen to it. Don't let it get overly cooked, but you want to definitely get rid of all the grease as much as it is possible. About halfway done here, slowly browning the meat. Every once in a while, just kind of keep trying to break it up. Okay. As you can see now, it's getting pretty much so done, but there is still some red. That's okay. Majority of it's all cooked. Remember, this thing's going to be simmering for a long time, so even if it isn't cooked all the way through, it's better to lean on the side of underdone at this point because it will eventually cook over time. So I'm going to take it off the heat. As you can see, it's off. And we'll get to the next step of draining. Okay, draining is pretty simple. Turn off the heat. Put it on some sort of edge like this. As you can see, I've got this little edge, so it at least helps the grease all collect in one spot. And then push all this up. Once we're there. Second. Doesn't always work out perfectly. Okay, and now we can just use one of our basting brush or basting tools and capture all the fat. Once you get most of the oil out, again, the fat can be in there, just you don't want it excessive amounts, so don't worry if there's a little bit left over. Remember, there's a lot of flavor in there. Our next step now is to put this back onto the fire for the next step where we're going to add the onions as well as the flavor packet. Okay. We are now going to throw in some onions into the pot that I have now back on heat. As you can see, it's getting a little warm in there. Throw some onions in. I might grab a little bit more. We like onions. And now what we do is we grab one of those chili packs, McCormick's. I use hot chili. I find it's plenty. It just adds a little bit more meat or heat to it. Use this for 1 pound. So we had 1 pound of meat, so you use this whole bag right here. At the same time, it says to use either water. I use beer in this case, and what I do is just take a beer and start adding to it. You really can't go wrong. Probably 3/4 of a cup, something like that, half a can. And now we'll give it a stir. Let it start doing its thing. And we'll be back. Okay, with that last step where we added the spices, a little bit of beer, and the onions, as you can see, it's now happy and it's starting to bubble a little bit. So our next step is to add 1 can of diced tomatoes. So just add that. Don't worry, it's everything. It's all the juice, everything. And then we also have the chili beans. And remember, this is a bigger container than the other, as you can see. And with that, we'll add probably 3/4 of this. If you like it a lot more, feel free, but I usually leave some in to see how many beans I really want to add in. So now what we'll do is stir. Boom, it is stirred and it's essentially done. However, I would like to let this sit for at least 2 to 3 hours on the lowest setting on your oven, or excuse me, your stovetop. So number 1, put a lid on it, and then for me, I would slide it over to this burner because this burner is a lot smaller than the other burner and it's meant for simmering. So what I'll do is just turn that on, let it sit for 2-3 hours every once in a while, giving it a stir, just checking in on it, make sure it's not bubbling or boiling over, and you get yourself some chili. Add your cheese, add your onions that you had left over, boom, you're golden. Enjoy.